is an unrehearsed program. The views expressed are those of the guests and not necessarily those of the producer. Today's topic:
Iran's nuclear deal framework in Passion for Truth, award-winning program.
Welcome to another edition of Passion for Truth. Did a Republican letter make diplomacy harder with Iran hardliners? That's what we are going to talk about, and the Iran deal as well. Dr. Caroline Landry, an economist who has researched the economic conditions and defense issues prevailing in various countries. Fred Peterson, a senior advisor to the U.S. Congress on defense and counterterrorism issues. Robert Barkin, President ACOS Group, a marketing communications firm, formerly a journalist with a number of newspapers, including the Providence Journal Bulletin and Miami Herald. Dr. Abul Hassan Ansari, a researcher on the historical perspectives of Indian events impacting on Muslims in India and abroad.
Thank you.
And Dr. Joseph Annunziata, with expertise on international affairs. As a former professor, Dr. Annunziata was an advisor to the Assistant Secretary of Defense on international issues. He was also a senior staff member at the White House. Welcome you all. Starting with you, Caroline, the letter warned that any nuclear deal Iran reaches with Barack Obama may be rewritten by Congress or revoked by the next president. Do you think the signatories were making some kind of deal with the hardliners in Iran?
Goodness, no. No, I can't see that. I would not accuse the Republicans of that kind of behavior. I mean, that's almost treason. No, of course not. No, they may think the same on this view. Neither group wants to have a deal on nuclear weapons, but I wouldn't think that they were working together. Of course not.
Fred, were the Republicans, whoever wrote the letter, actively contributed to the no-deal scenario for a long time?
Here's the way I look at it. I don't believe that, I believe they were acting quite responsibly and constitutionally. And it's simply a statement of fact that agreements such as this need to go, they are tantamount to treaties, especially something as critically important as this. It must go through Congress and be reviewed and then be the expression of the will of the united country. That is the proper way to do it. Yes, the executive takes the leadership, but they need to have a proper direction in which they're heading so that they will take the national will with them. This treaty does not reflect the national will. It is a very dangerous exercise in allowing, caving in on position after position after position in order to achieve a legacy instead of a policy. And the Republicans and those who signed that were quite proper in expressing the simply statement of fact that this is not an expression legally of the opinion of America until it is ratified and until there is a joint
We'll talk about that later, but just for the time being, staying on the Republican letter, Robert, when the two sides were so far apart on the basic issue, do you think the letter made it even harder to see how they might get to say yes?
I think that the letter may have, there are some people who say actually the way some of their terminology was pretty naive and wasn't even a draft, it wasn't even a good letter, much less one that should have been sent. But clearly the commotion was not about the content of the letter. It was that it was directed to the heads of another state. And there have been all sorts of efforts by Republicans to back away from that and say, well, these people did it and these other people did it, and so this one wasn't so bad. It clearly was a gaffe. And the deal went ahead without it. I think it was momentary. I just think it reflected badly on the Republicans. And I think in the end, that was the substance of the whole issue that in the long term will fade away into nothing. It's just that the Republicans look bad. They look not very sophisticated, and in fact, some of them were even saying we didn't even know what was in the letter, and had we known what was in the letter, we wouldn't have signed it. So it really kind of reflected just badly politically, but I don't think it had an effect on the deal.
Dr. Ansari, do you think it simply made them look bad because the Republicans just did not like the mix of engagement with sanctions? Or do you think they thought that engagement with sanctions was not feasible?
First of all, the sanctions have never worked. I mean, I understand the economy of the Iran has hurt and it is hurting the common people. Remember that we had the sanction many times in the past and they have never worked. We had the sanction against North Korea, but I mean, they made a bomb and they have the bomb, they're sitting on the bomb, you couldn't do anything. Iran is a sovereign nation, something that was reeling under the tyranny of the former king, Shah of Iran. It's a sovereign nation. I think we need to approach them like any respectable nation. Now, if you push too much the way these people are talking, if I were Iranian president, I'll say, hell with you, I'll do what I want to do. I don't need your advice. And that's what's going to backfire in the long run.
It comes to a fundamental question also, Joe. Do such letters undercut a sitting president?
Yes, absolutely.
Joe?
I think they do, and I think it was a shameful act. It was ignorant. They didn't know what they were doing, but it was done for political gain. They're out to get the president, this president, to make him look as bad as they could. It's a continuity of the past 6 years. They're out to get the presidency. The political campaign is on now to get a Republican to get into the White House. And I think that it was transparent.
Not only
and most
this,
people saw what it was intended to do, and even the Iranians did not buy it.
no, even whatever you said is right, but they say that next president will nullify the treaty. So where is the credibility of the United States and the president of the United States? He signed something in good faith, negotiation, and then you come, you say, hey, I'm going to cancel this treaty? Where is the respect for the United States or the presidents?
We've talked about a treaty. We're not talking about anything. There is not even a framework that has been announced yet. We're talking essentially about nothing. We're talking about nothing. There is no deal. There is no framework for a deal yet. In fact, we have exceeded the time limit and stretched it out now until June. We have retreated from position after position after position, so that even the French, the intrepid, brave, bold, heroic French, have said, the United States, what are you doing? You cannot do this. The Germans, all of our allies, are appalled at the behavior. So it was entirely
Wait a minute.
within, not just, it was
There
the
were 6 countries in
responsibility
this. It wasn't just the
of the
U.S.
entire leadership. We don't have a
Okay,
king.
let Joe
Yeah,
go
there were
ahead.
6 countries involved in the negotiations, not just the United States, and they all agreed. They all signed this framework.
There
So
is
it
not a
was-
framework signed yet.
That's what they just accomplished, a
No,
framework.
It is not.
That's what they
The
call it.
framework, which will be
what it's
signed in
called.
June.
No. They have to do more negotiations.
Right.
I understand
But
that.
they had the framework.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
We had the framework. That's all they signed.
And now
And then
the
in June,
details.
they will sign the other one. So there were 6 countries involved in these negotiations. So it's not just the United States.
Okay,
And it is not a treaty. It never was intended to be a treaty. And there are a lot of executive agreements, like the ABM treaty, which was also reneged upon by the Reagan administration. There are all kinds of weapons proliferation treaties that go on. NPT is not
Okay.
something that has to be approved by the Congress.
Caroline, what do you make of the Republicans' argument that Obama's refusal to consult Congress about talks with Iran led them to think that he might accept a bad deal with Iran?
Well,
That's what prompted the letter. That's what prompted the discussion.
I think an argument can be made that perhaps he should have had some people on the negotiating team from the Congress, perhaps. But if you do that, then you're going to have a lot of leaks. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So if you want to avoid leaks, you don't bring them along. And so it's a trade-off, and I guess the president decided not to include them. I do think it's just part of this sort of total Obama hatred that you see. It's reflexive. They don't even think about it. They just say no, it's wrong, and so there's no issue there. It's a little sad because politics used to end at the water's edge, and that everybody just sort of kept quiet until after the arguments were made. They certainly weren't reaching out to foreign leaders on that. And I think it's interesting what you say about the Republicans. It's, what goes around comes around. I don't think this was carefully thought out.
Do you let me have Caroline, while we are on the subject, do such endeavors hurt the ability of all future presidents to negotiate with the world?
One would hope not. One would hope that this would never be repeated.
Well, if you nullify the negotiations, a treaty that the president has negotiated, and you make it nullified because you are in power or you are in majority, then what good is this? That nobody will negotiate in the future, and nobody will trust United States.
Okay, there's one thing we need to get straight. There is no treaty.
Yeah,
No.
that's true.
That four
But there's
words.
an agreement,
let's
a
get it
framework.
straight.
I mean,
There is no framework.
It's a deal.
Yes, there
Because
is.
what the president announced as a framework, a
Shouldn't use
word
the treaty.
thrown out
President-
to
It's not a
the
treaty.
President
air.
doesn't have to have the permission of Republican to
what
negotiate
the
anything.
president has thrown out as a framework was the very less than 24 hours later utterly rejected by Iran. They said, what
No.
are you talking about? We
No.
never agreed to that.
No.
So tell me what the framework is in writing. Guess what? There
They're
isn't
celebrating
one.
in the
No
streets in
treaty,
Iran, in
no
Tehran, the
framework.
people are delighted.
Yeah,
And
now
what
who do
happened?
you think puts people in this? Oh, come on, let's not be so naive.
The
Well,
government.
in 2009,
The government
2009 they
Yeah,
came
and
out.
what did we do about it? Nothing.
what
Did
should
we
we have
support
done?
them?
What should we
Zero.
have done?
We should have
What?
given them moral support,
What?
did we? No,
Yes,
we did not. We did
What
not.
should we have done?
Okay, we're taking a quick break. When we
Really?
come back, we're going to talk about will Iran demonstrate its compliance with the deal? And what do they make of a deal? Stay with us, Passion for Truth. Robert, will the deal block Iran's ability to build nuclear weapons for at least a decade? Or is Iran making a deal because its primary goal is to get international sanctions lifted?
Well, I think those are not mutually exclusive. The intention of it's not a treaty. I think that's probably a word we shouldn't use because a treaty does have to be ratified by the Congress.
Congress, yeah.
So we shouldn't use the word treaty. But the deal is, and there have been many deals that presidents have executed. And its intention is to keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon within 1 year. Right now, they're at 3 months. You kill all the negotiations, Iran is 3 months away from a nuclear weapon. And I'm wondering what we've accomplished there. Second, the idea is not just 10 years. It's actually, what I was reading today, it's actually 25 years. That it's a 10-year and then another 5 years, and there's 10 years after that. The point of it is this. If Iran decides to pull away from having a nuclear weapon and it's verifiable, we're better off than we are today. If it's not verifiable and we can't, then we're back to where we are now. So it's hard to hear what the opponents of the deal are offering as a better construct. If we're not going to have a deal, then Iran is 3 months away from a nuclear weapon, and come September, where are we?
Do you
Well,
agree with this premise,
The
Dr. Musab?
president of Iran already said that we are going to abide with all the terms and conditions that we have negotiated. I mean, you need to give a chance. The worst thing is the one that Republicans had really spoiled the whole game. If I were Iranian, let us say, I'm not Iranian, but if I were Iranian, I'd say, hell with you. I'm going to make the bomb regardless, whatever you do. Whatever is good for the goose is good for the gander. You have a bomb, you keep on making the bomb, you tell others not to do it. That is not acceptable.
The point that I would like to make in response to that is you have two parties. if one is determined, and we talk about nuclear weapons, Iran, for all of our little our conversations here, is there any of us who believes Iran is not headed toward, as an objective, possession of a nuclear weapon to
Yeah,
give them
I don't
regional
believe that.
hegemony?
I don't
You don't
believe
believe
that.
that they
No,
are?
that's
I
the
believe
kind
that
of
they are.
prejudice
The
that
second-
you're trying to put in people's minds.
I think they want
The
the
same with
sanctions.
They
Mr.
don't- they
Netanyahu
don't.
comes to this country and tries to dictate to our government what we should do in terms of our foreign policy. I'm so glad. Thank God for Mr. Obama. Thank God for John Kerry. Thank God for the people who negotiated this executive agreement. Thank God for the Iranian leaders who accepted it and saw the value of it. So I think all the
Okay.
other stuff is prejudicial.
Okay, here it is, Caroline. If the Congress does not approve the deal, what would it mean for the Middle East that's already unstable? I mean, Iranians seem convinced that with the rise of Islamic State, U.S. needs help in Iraq, Iran's help in Iraq. Is that a leverage they are playing? They have a hand?
Well, I think what we're doing is they're doing a lot of things that we don't like. Russia and Soviet Union before, and we're doing a lot of things that we didn't like. But we were able to come to some agreement on some things, and that's what we're doing right now. We cannot negotiate everything. We can't get them to stop what they're doing in Lebanon, stop what they're doing in Yemen. We can't do that in this agreement. We're just talking about their nuclear capacity. That's all we're talking about right now. It would be nice if we could do these other things. It would be nice if we could get them to recognize Israel's right to exist, but that's not what we're negotiating right now.
I
So-
thought the president of Iran said that they are willing to accept, Israel right to exist. Yes,
No, he said,
I heard on the radio.
they've actually said that they want, and repeated very recently in the last couple of days, that nothing that has been said before preempts their determination to wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
You know,
So, I mean, these are statements that are out there, issued by the Ayatollah and other seniors within the Iranian government.
You're
What
talking
does
about
that
the-
mean?
You're
Nothing?
talking
I
about the
don't
people in
think
the
that-
past.
Are
they
we
must
in
have
La
said-
La Land where we just pretend?
Some of those statements are selectively
There we go.
put
La La
out in
Land.
the, well, I'm just saying.
They
if
don't exist. Hitler didn't mean it, right? Hitler
Okay,
didn't mean it.
let me change the gears here. The two sides, Joe, seemed far apart on key issues, and that's what it has taken the deal of so long. American negotiators have insisted that sanctions should be removed. What should the U.S. and Iran do if the Congress does not approve the deal? Should both sides do nothing? No, they have come to agreement, but the Congress still has to approve the deal.
No, it doesn't. Congress does not have to. It's not a treaty. So that's what
Joe-
the Republicans are saying.
they do it, if we're going to remove sanctions, they have to pass
Sanctions, yes.
that.
Yes.
For sanctions, they have
But
no
not the
say.
other-
Congress doesn't have a say.
Yes,
Whether
the sanctions. It does with
The
sanctions,
sanctions,
yes.
yes.
Some sanctions, not all the sanctions. That's
Right.
pretty. The deal with the Congress is Congress wants to pass a law, and they're going to vote on it coming up, that they want to insert themselves into the process. It's automatically they don't have a right to nullify. So then Obama would probably veto that, then there may be override the veto. So, the negotiations with Congress is very subtle in some ways, and very outrageous on the other. The other piece of it, though, is where is Israel going to come out on this? And Congress is going to follow Israel's lead. And there are a lot of people saying that Netanyahu, given some of his political problems, especially after the last election, may back away a little bit on the nuclear, which would give Obama some more room to maneuver.
Frankly, I think the Netanyahu will attack Iran regardless what we do. And what America needs to do is stop taking the orders from Tel Aviv. That's a very essential part. I mean, we are a sovereign nation and we don't have to listen to anybody. We do what is best for us and what is best for the world, not one particular country.
Do you agree with this premise, Joe?
Yeah, yes, I do. And I agree that if the Congress should go ahead with its Republican majority and try to insist on passing a law that this executive agreement must pass congressional approval, that will go to the Supreme Court because they are interfering in the prerogatives of the president. Congress does not have a right to insinuate itself in foreign policy, which is what it would be trying to do. It would be, you would create a big problem for the separation of powers. We have a legislation, Congress legislates, the president executes. So I think that
I would
they're creating
actually
a problem.
agree with that. I would like to see if the president acts dispositively and, in my opinion, utterly unconstitutionally on this. I believe it
No,
should be
this is the
litigated.
constitutional
I believe it
issue.
absolutely should be litigated.
I
I quite agree with you.
I think it would be a travesty in front of the whole world that the U.S. has to go to court to figure out what our foreign policy
and
is.
that, I quite agree with that too.
And so I think
What-
I'm hoping that there will be some sanity in Washington, which we haven't seen a whole lot of, that will provide some forum for Congress to have its say, that Obama will have his deal, and that Israel will feel content, contented enough that it will accept the deal. That would be the best outcome for everybody.
Okay,
Whether we'll see it or not.
in this finger pointing game, Fred, do you think any new U.S. sanctions could make Iran look like a victim? I mean, or do you think each side should wait and see approach if the Congress does not approve the deal?
Sanctions have been withdrawn. Not new sanctions have not been proposed. What we have done is not only withdrawn sanctions,
What
but we
sanctions?
have fallen back from position economic. We have fallen back from.
Fred, they haven't
we
withdrawn
haven't
any
withdrawn
Can I
sanctions
finish
yet.
the thought here?
Yeah.
We have fallen back
But you're
from
making
position
statements that are
after
false.
position after position after position has been, including inspection regimen, the amount of reactors that are going to be allowed, the amount of product allowed to be produced and retained. And we are talking about nuclear weapons. We're not in a la-la land where we're pretending that is not where this is headed. It is utterly irresponsible for the United States or any responsible world actor not to stop this insanity before it has gone too far. The incentive is for all of the other states, Saudi, etc., to also obtain the same weapons to countervail the power that we have absented ourselves from exercising in that area. What we're looking at is a world at war, a nuclear war, and that is something everyone of good faith should be trying to impose, and you don't do it by caving into
You
Okay.
are,
If-
you
if
are,
we're
you
going
are
to have-
quoting about Saudis. You know, Iran is far better than Saudi Arabia. Let me tell you this. Far better in every way.
If we're going to have, if Iran is going to have nuclear capability to produce a bomb in 3 months,
yes.
okay.
I think
all
this
right,
is
if that's
exaggeration.
gonna- if that's
3
gonna
months is
happen,
not true.
then what should you, and you don't like this
Absolutely not
deal,
true.
excuse me, and you don't like this deal, Fred, then what should we do? What is your option?
We're in a very difficult position because time
Okay.
has passed.
Yeah, okay, so just give me a quick
Not
answer.
one reactor has slowed down. What we should do is we should have real, tough, meaningful sanctions, and we should stop imposing. Excuse me, there's going to be some real
Okay,
dissent here.
which
A
sanctions?
restraint on Israel from acting in their own survival interests.
Okay, let me have Joe. Joe, what do you make of his argument on this, on the sanctions?
I think
and-
it's all speculation, and it is fear-mongering, which is what Netanyahu did when he came here.
Right.
Trying to scare the whole world into saying Iran is going to build a nuclear weapon in 3 months, and they're going to annihilate Israel. And they might annihilate who knows who else in the world. And I think all of that is disgraceful and shameful that somebody like that should come to this country and try to tell us how to think about what is in the best interest of this country and the safety of the world.
And his own survival.
We'll be
Everything
right.
is in his survival.
We'll be
He
right
thinks that
back.
he sees ghosts everywhere.
We'll be right back with our closing comments. Stay with us. Passion for Truth.
Okay. Is there anything in the negotiations about restricting Iran's purchase of a nuclear weapon from Korea, North Korea?
Who wants to answer that?
I haven't seen
Not to
anything
my
like
Good
that.
question. To my knowledge, no. There is nothing that addresses that at all. This is exclusively restricted to Iran's ability and determination to obtain the capability of producing their own.
I mean, what is the
There
difference?
is one
another
thing.
whole-
What's the difference? You have a nuclear bomb, whether you borrowed or stole or created your own,
agree.
country. I mean, what's the difference? If you want to use it,
Well,
you
there's
go
a
ahead and
big
use
difference.
it. Yeah, no. If you have a nuclear bomb, you have a nuclear bomb. Doesn't matter.
Speaking as the economist, how are they going to pay for it? Because the Iranians are cut off from bank transfers. It's going to be a very difficult thing for them
So,
to do.
we're
And believe
talking
me, the
about the
North Koreans,
effectiveness of sanctions
believe
to a
me, the
degree.
North Koreans are very touchy, but they definitely want to be paid.
The other
So
thing-
that would be the sort of
Exactly.
thing that we
Okay.
could find out.
The
All
other
right.
thing is one bomb is not a nuclear power made.
Right.
And if Iran wants anything, they want the capacity to make hundreds of bombs, not one.
And that's all the time we have. We'll bring you another edition of Passion for Truth next Saturday and Sunday.
Just knew we were getting this.
Thank you all.
If you have any question, comment, or suggestion on this program, please send us an email at mschawla@hotmail.com or write to us at 1011 Sod Meadow Lane, McLean, Virginia 22101. You can also access these TV programs and the radio programs archived on the internet at your own time on the internet at our page www.passionfortruthtv.com. Please watch these TV programs every week at the same station and at the same time, and send your comments to mschawla@hotmail.com.